Hey, Mike, just I guess in general, what'd you like about Derek for Friday night? What went into that decision?
Well, we've talked about it, I think, a bunch this week. Obviously with the staff to make the decision, and then with you guys, and I think you've heard it before. At the end of the day, the goal is we want to win game one, no doubt about it. But the goal is to win the regional and to move on. And we thought because of the matchups, looking at all three teams, this gives us the best opportunity to get through the first two games. And a lot of people would look at it where Southeast Missouri, there's 4 seed, but they're probably the best 4 seed in the country. A team that not only won their tournament, so they're playing well, but they've won the regular season. They got a pitcher of the year and an ace that would be an ace on any staff, and Dylan Dodd. They present a lot of problems, for any team, not just Ole Miss. And so, but fortunately, we got a guy like Derek that we think can handle it. That he's an ace in his own regard. A guy that's has pitched well the last 2 weekends. I thought he pitched well at Georgia. Certainly pitched well in the Southeastern Conference tournament. So we think he's ready.
What do you see from Dodd's game?
I'm sorry.
What do you see from Dodd's game, the pitcher for SEMO?
Terrific, left-handed guy with a dominant fastball in the low 90s. He'll mix in a couple different breaking balls. It looks like on film, a curve and a slider and a changeup. But the fastball, is really good, and beats a lot of people. And he's had success, the entire season. When you look at those numbers, I mean, obviously you've seen the statistics. You don't get those types of numbers without being, outstanding on the mound and being outstanding, every week.
Parrish Alford.
Mike, you mentioned that Derek has pitched well his last 2 outings. We've seen him pitch well. We've seen him have some shorter starts. What goes into consistency for him? What does he need to do to become more consistent in going deeper into games more regularly?
It seems like a simple answer, but it's not. I think sometimes when you look back at the starts, there's outings where he's made good pitches, and it can happen. Where they just get hit. And at the wrong time, and balls fall into a gap, guy give up a home run. If you look back at the Vanderbilt game, he actually didn't pitch that poorly. Actually pitched pretty good, up into the end there, where he walked a couple people. But some of those wind-dated balls where, again, credit them, but they were good pitches and balls that were struck well. But then what Derek alluded to, I think, is different, and where you start to, and you guys kind of hammered it on him. I was sitting back there going, wow, there's some tough questions. But I think, in a nutshell, what he was trying to say, and what I think he's learned, and what a lot of the young pitchers learn, is to be more themselves out there. I think, they try to keep things calm. They try to stay in the moment. And sometimes a guy like Derek, it almost goes too much, to where they lose some of their aggressiveness. They lose some of the, especially Derek being, one of the best athletes on the team, Omaha Challenge champion two years in a row. So this guy's a position player, pitcher. He loses that aggressiveness in trying to calm himself down and stay in the moment. And sometimes that's not a good thing. And so, we've talked about it the last couple of weeks of, be aggressive, go after him. It's all right. Not everybody has to show the emotion that Doug shows, and not everyone that's really good does that. But you got to be yourself, and you got to be more in attack mode. And I think the last few weeks he's done that. He's got tremendous stuff, as you know. He's going to throw the ball in the low to mid 90s. He's got an outstanding slider and changeup. He's a guy that really commands it well. He's the total package. But I think sometimes we forget that he's a freshman. And him and Drew, we've put a lot on them. And and once you lost Gunner, Gunner and Doug could could take that weight a lot, in the first 2 games. But once you lose Gunner and you're putting so much now on 2 freshmen, I think sometimes you see some of their deficiencies or where they need to mature. But certainly that was a long answer, but you guys have asked it several different times, so I thought I'd give it to you.
What did Derek and Drew and so many others, what did these guys who were freshmen last year miss by having that season cut short from a developmental standpoint? I mean, how has that affected?
I think what we just said. I
Yeah.
think you got to remember that it's such a weird year that they would have done this last year, right? And so this year they'd be sophomores. They'd be a year, not just a year in the calendar, but a year of getting punched in the face, having success, then the next week not having success, trying to find your breaking ball, pitching in a regional, those types of things that help everybody mature. Everybody talks about experience. That's the whole thing that those guys, Chatinier, Dunhurst, they've all lost. Not just our guys, other guys that are sitting in the other dugout, Southern Miss and SEMO and so on. And so all of that you learn in a year, and it's hard to say a breaking ball. It's hard to just say, handling adversity. It's all of those. God bless you. So
Nick Suss.
Mike, how did what you got last week from guys like Myers and Adcock kind of affect the way you handle the bullpen this weekend?
I don't think just them. I think, last weekend was big, or last week, I should say, was big for us on a lot of fronts. First, what we've just been talking about, Drew, and for Derek to have a good outing, I think going into regionals, I think that was good from a mental standpoint and feeling good about themselves. But when you go to the bullpen and you look at a lot of those bullpen pieces pitching well, Doherty continuing to pitch well and having another really good outing, for Brandon Johnson, who's pitched well, and I lose track, but maybe 5 or 6 times in a row now, good, leading back to Vanderbilt, where I thought he pitched well in relief there in a game that we got beat up on, the game 2. But he pitched well in his outing there, pitched well in the midweek, pitched well at Georgia, and then had 3 really good outings at the SEC tournament. So, becoming I think a valuable piece. Of course, Myers looking as good and as sharp, even though it was a start. I think you're alluding to, that still was, outstanding. And then, of course, Cody, pitching really well against another really good team in Arkansas. So, the more the merrier there. It's postseason, and you need all the arms that you can get. And I think now not only do we feel more comfortable, I think, as a staff, but I think they feel and the team feels like this is their role now. That they can do this, and they can do it on a big stage. And when you do it in the SEC tournament, it's pretty special.
We saw you use Taylor and Brandon multiple times last week. This time of year, how willing are you, or how reliant are you on guys who can go 2-3 times in a weekend?
They can go when they can go. So, there is no next week unless you win this week. And so I say that, which, I think, Nick, and, I think everybody here understands. You can't pitch a guy that's not capable, a guy that just doesn't have it. But we kind of go through a deal, which you've heard me say before, where they'll stretch, they'll do their pregame throwing, and then Lafferty will kind of take a roll call almost before the game, and a lot of that we won't get until about 10 minutes beforehand. Now, some of them we know obviously they're fine, they haven't pitched yet, or they pitched the other day. But guys that pitched on Friday, when you're asking them Saturday, how do they feel? And Taylor will tell us, and he told us a couple times in the tournament, he was a little sore, and and so and then he also told us, hey, yeah, I got the 9th and I'm good and I feel great, or I got more. And so we trust them. This is something that just didn't happen this week. This has been happening since September, in inter-squad games and everything else. So I think they trust us, they being the staff, the pitching staff, and obviously we have to trust them because, we don't want to run them out there if they can't do it for a lot of reasons. One, certainly their health, but the other is because we're trying to win. And, you don't want to run somebody out there that's, physically, not at their best. And so we'll take all that into consideration, but, we're here to win. And so we're not counting pitches. We're not looking for days off. We're trying to win games. And when guys are able to and physically can do it, and, we'll run them out there.
Trey?
Yeah, Mike, I feel like you see it a lot or maybe not a lot, but just a few times every year where a team, bows out quickly in the SEC tournament, then makes a run in the postseason, and then vice versa. I guess from your standpoint, from a team that made a deep run into Hoover last week, how do you make sure that, you kind of bottle up that momentum and keep it going?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've been here, obviously, Trey, for a long time. You know that there's no rhyme or reason. It's kind of fascinating. I've watched guys, like you said, get eliminated on that Tuesday and then make a huge run in postseason. I've also, you watched Vanderbilt, win the SEC tournament and then go on to win the national championship in 2019. So I've seen it both ways. And, to look and say, hey, they're tired or this or that. Nah, they're 19 and 22-year-old kids. I think that's our job. We knew that, we played 5 days in a row. They were off on Sunday. Monday's practice was pretty light. Our practice that we probably got the most out of them and pushed them a little bit was Tuesday. Yesterday we were in shorts and it was a light practice. We didn't even think we'd get outside, although we did because of the rain. We're planning on just hitting inside. So yesterday was pretty light. Today, was about an hour and 5 minutes on the field in the NCAA practice. So, our guys are rested and ready to go. And I think as a coach, you just kind of gauge that about your run. There's been times where, we've made a short appearance in the SEC tournament and you had to throw some guys. You had to come back and inter squad and get some pitchers to get some work. And so we've been on both ends of it, but, we're comfortable where we are right now.